Good morning, everyone. Welcome to our Friday SLO talk. My name is Jarek Janio. I'm the faculty coordinator from School of Continuing Education at Santa Ana College. Today's discussion is step number 5 of the guide to assessment of student learning, and that's SLO assessment data analysis. The trick to this topic is the focus on student learning. Attendance, course completion, we talked about these issues before. Diploma attainment, transfer rates, these are not measures of student learning. Direct assessment of what students can actually do and how they can demonstrate skills and competencies that they acquire need to be recorded as attestation of student learning. And that's the challenge. This information needs to be shared, most importantly, with our students. So when we talk about the cycle of assessment, as I have heard over the years that we teach, we assess reading in one semester, writing in the next semester, and then perhaps vocabulary and grammar in other semesters. When you think about it, that system deprives students of immediate and relevant feedback to what it is that they learn. So unless we assess student learning outcomes in courses on a consistent semester basis, students are the ones who are going to be failed at the end of the process. So assessment needs to be ongoing. It needs to be clearly articulated to students, and it needs to be always relevant to what it is that's happening in the classroom so that faculty can change their instruction to the extent that's necessary to ensure student learning. Assessment data analysis may and should inform also discussions on campus with regards to resource allocation, accreditation measures, and so forth. But students are the ones who need to know how well they have mastered, what is expected of them, and what they need to do in order to make their skills and competencies better. So with that, Enrique, I think that, Tricia is here. Good morning. Good morning, Tricia. Hello, Jennifer. How are you? Always good to see you. Enrique, with that, I'll turn it over to you, and let's get going with our presentations. Thank you again for joining us. Yeah, you're still muted, Enrique. See, this is...
Thank you, everyone. It's I tapped the button on mute and it wouldn't do it right.
I know.
Okay, so thank you, everyone. My name is Enrique Jauregui. I'm the SLO coordinator for Fresno City College. I want to thank all the presenters and the attendees for participating. In front of you, you have the agenda. We have 5 presenters. Tricia, would you like to introduce yourself, please?
Hi, Enrique. Yes, thank you. My name is Tricia Wilging. I teach in the Reading and Teacher Preparation Department at Long Beach City College. And I'm also the coordinator. I've been serving in this role since March of 2020. And I have Jennifer with me, and I'll let her introduce herself as well.
Hi, everyone. I'm Jennifer Holmgren. I'm the Director of Planning in the Office of Institutional Effectiveness at Long Beach City College. And I support SLOs working with Tricia, especially when it comes to data analysis support.
Thank you, Jennifer. Fred. I hope Fred is here. If not, I'm going to go by order.
Yeah,
Julie?
this is, yes, Long Beach is well represented. Thank you so much, guys. Let me see here. You know, I don't see him yet.
Yes, okay.
Julie? I'll send him an email, see what's going on.
There?
I'm here, actually. I'm here.
Oh,
Fred?
there he is. He's here. Hello, Fred. Thank you very much for joining us.
You're welcome.
Would you like to introduce yourself, Fred, and where you're, which college you represent?
My name is Fred Thomas, and I am hygiene instructor for Fresno City College dental hygiene program, and I'm the clinical lead.
Thank you, Fred. Appreciate it. And Julie, if she's here. And I know Amanda was going to be late. She's one of the last presenters. But if not, Tricia, would you like to go first? If you're ready, I will stop sharing. And you and Jennifer take it away. Thank you.
Sure. Let me go ahead and share my screen. And for the sake of our presentation today, I'm going to be presenting a lot of the content, and then Jennifer is going to share a lot of the dashboard visualizations and wonderfully add to the presentation this morning. So again, we're here to talk about results of assessment and data analysis. And some of these things Yarrick mentioned earlier this morning, but just wanted to present a quick overview that direct assessment of student learning is designed to provide data that point to what and how well students learn. At LBC, we use Canvas-based quizzes and Canvas-based rubrics for direct assessment. And then the results of assessment are gathered and an analysis is performed at the course, program, and institutional level to make learning visible for faculty and students. We use Tableau dashboard visualizations, and we support analysis and action by providing what we call our analysis and action guides. And we found that this makes data analysis enterable for faculty, especially as we encourage them to work in faculty inquiry groups. And also we found these guides very helpful for our assessment of student learning outcomes subcommittee, who works on analyzing and acting our institutional student learning outcomes. So just a quick background, our Canvas assessments look something like this. We have a separate SLO assessment shell for every course. Every course's SLO assessments, and also for the institutional assessments. So the shell is here, and when students click into it, if they're taking a quiz-based assessment, they would see this welcome message, and then they would, if I had the ability to scroll down here, they would scroll down and they would be taken directly to their quiz. For a rubric-based assessment, the faculty would be the ones clicking into this shell and scoring their students. But ultimately, we assess because we want to obtain results. And so for our course SLO analysis at City College, analysis of data and action taking every other year as part of our course SLO cycle. We really encourage faculty and departments to look at data in course level SLO specific faculty inquiry groups. So a group of students or a group of faculty, for example, that teach English 1, we would ask them to gather together and discuss the results of assessment. And maybe one group focuses on SLO 1 and another group focuses on SLO 2, for example. But ultimately, when they're looking at this data, they do so utilizing a Tableau dashboard. It presents that data visually for faculty to analyze, but they analyze based on the questions in our analysis and action guide. And so our analysis and action guide at the course level, we ask faculty to choose one SLO per each course within the department. So English 1 and then English 3 and then English 4, right? Whatever our course levels are. In every course, we want them to focus on one student learning outcome. And if they have a student learning outcome, for examples, that falls below the % expected level of achievement, that's the one we want them to analyze and act on. But if all of their courses meet that 70% expected level of achievement, or course SLOs, then we ask them to still choose one course SLO to act on to work toward continuous improvement. And then the first criteria, we ask faculty to reflect their participation rate. Did the course SLO reach an 80% participation rate, right? And if not, we really want the department to consider how faculty might increase that participation rate. What can they do on their end, right, to increase student participation or faculty participation in rubric scoring, right? Because as we all know, it's very hard to obtain a meaningful analysis if we don't have adequate results of assessment. Okay, part 2 of our analysis and action guide, we asked faculty to reflect on their overall results. Did the assessment, for example, meet the 70% expected level of achievement? How does that overall score compare to the overall course success rate? We know that different things go into course success, and a certain set of things go into course success, and another set of things go into student learning outcomes obtainment, right? So maybe faculty have the opportunity to have that consideration, right? And then a very important question is we ask them to analyze the quiz question level or rubric category level SLO results in the chart and discuss areas that need improvement. So if there are specific questions that students struggled on or specific facets within the rubric, competencies that students are struggling on, we want the department's colleagues or the department faculty who work to teach this content to really labor together to consider, okay, what can we do to move the needle with student learning? And we know it's not an exact science. We know it's not perfect, and that SLO work really is exploratory in nature because, and I think I've said this previously, but if we all knew exactly what to do to improve student learning, we would have done it already. But sometimes looking at these results of assessment gives us some insights. Those insights lead us to taking particular action to improve student learning. But we also don't want to, in part 2 here, lose sight of the fact that sometimes our students are scoring very highly and they're really meeting competencies at a wonderful rate. And so if that is happening, we want to give faculty the opportunity to reflect on that and to consider what they're doing in that area that they might leverage in another area also to address a weakness, right? So we don't only want to look at negative things. We really want to give the faculty the opportunity to speak to what they also have been doing that has been working. Part 3 helps us to meet some of our accreditation standards specifically, but also really gives us insights into how our different student groups are performing so that we can ensure that all of our students are really achieving equitably, right? And so we ask faculty to reflect because our dashboard permits this kind of disaggregation. So we ask faculty to reflect what groups of students and in which modality were the scores the highest, what groups of students by race and ethnicity and gender, and in which modality did students score the lowest, and what are you thinking related to the curriculum and instruction that may have had an impact on results, and what might you do potentially to close equities. And of course, this is the data analysis portion. And I know next week we're going to focus more on action and closing the loop. But I wanted to let you all know that within this analysis and action guide worksheet, because analysis and action are so inextricably related, right? We ask faculty to take action, to determine and settle on action to improve student learning as a group, right? And we want one of their actions to address the participation rate or overall assessment score. And we want one of the actions to address equity gaps. Now, they can have more than 2 actions, but at least 2 of them we say must be tier 1 or tier 2. And I can explain a little bit more what that means next week, but we provide a sample list of meaningful actions as a reference for faculty. Tier 1 and tier 2 focus on program planning and institutional resources, as well as curriculum and instruction. Whereas tier 3 focuses more on tweaking the assessment, changing the SLO language. And we really ask folks to reflect on tier 1 and tier 2 because we want to move away from gratuitous changes to the assessment tool itself. And we really want to work toward curriculum, instruction, and support necessary to improve student learning, both overall and for all of our specific student populations. And then, as you can see here, we also ask faculty, if they're considering their actions, for more information about how they might close the loop, such as when will they implement the actions, or when will they begin to, and will they address only specific course sections, or will all faculty address the actions? And so that is our course SLO analysis and action guide. And so I'm going to stop sharing now and pass the ball to
Tricia?
Jennifer. Yes,
Trish, quick question. Jacqueline has multiple inquiries.
sure.
Jacqueline, would you like to speak to that?
Okay, yes, let me read the question, sorry.
I mean, Jacqueline?
No, let me save you that. So what I'm asking is, so I'm presuming when you're talking about SLO, you're talking about institutional SLO that you're assessing across multiple courses. And so one of the questions that I asked is, do you have the courses that your college offers mapped to the SLO? Is that written somewhere? So that you make a choice each year if we're assessing SLO 2 in academic year 2022, we can go to the curriculum map and identify these courses that speak to SLO 2.
Yes,
Okay, and so then my second question was, so to speak to what Jarek was saying earlier, your assessment of SLO 2, for instance, in this handful of courses, that's over and above the course level assessment that's taking place. So for instance, in English 1A, students are learning how to write an essay, how to construct a sentence, how to write all of that. There's these course level objectives. The SLO assessment that you're doing is over and above that, which is why the students are stepping out of the course to do the separate SLO assessment. Do I understand that?
okay, let me try to answer and you can tell me if I've addressed your question.
Okay.
So we have mapped our course SLOs to our institutional SLOs.
Okay.
And what we do for that is that we have a direct assessment for institutional SLOs, a rubric for institutional built into a Canvas shell. So if you are a faculty member who teaches a course that is mapped to the institutional SLOs, you assess your students on that institutional SLO rubric, determine whether they meet the institutional learning outcomes, right? So all of those courses where the faculty have said, yes, we think this course SLO maps to the institutional SLO, they're not using an aggregate course SLO assessment to determine whether faculty have met the institutional SLO. They're using this direct assessment to determine whether students in those mapped courses, by virtue of learning that content and meeting those course level outcomes, are also able to meet the institutional level outcomes. But then we also have course level specific SLO assessments. And so those are also taking place. So we assess our course level SLOs, our program level SLOs, and our institutional level SLOs.
Okay, I was intrigued by the idea. I understand the concept of mapping, of course, and of identifying the courses that you're in your planning phase. You're going to identify, okay, as we assess SLO 2, we're going to look at this course, that course, the other course, and these assessments that take place within those courses. I get that. But what was really intriguing to me is the idea that you have the students step outside the course to take this unique direct assessment of the SLO. I find that fascinating and really exciting. Yeah, thank you for sharing that.
Yeah, our pleasure. I mean, of course, SLO work is received differently in different spaces and different phases, but we've found, I think, and Jennifer, you can probably put me on this, we found that really there's been quite a lot of buy-in over the last 2 years, and our faculty are assessing, they're entering into analysis, they're taking actions. The attitude has, I think, shifted quite a bit related to SLOs, and I think our faculty are finding this work meaningful in light of improving student learning, which we have found also very exciting.
Yeah, excellent. Thank you.
Okay, then there was another question about the step 4 process is a direct assessment. I'm not sure what you mean, Elizabeth. Could you speak to that?
Tricia, we can move on.
So just quickly, the Middle States accreditation oh, you guys are not from Middle States, but I guess it doesn't matter. Most accreditation is when you have to show that you're assessing, you have to use direct measures and indirect measures. So is this considered a direct measure?
Yes, this is a direct measure.
Fantastic, I love it.
Thank you. And then there was a question also about incentive for faculty participation. No, SLO work is part of what we do. We're always working toward continuous improvement. And so, so it's just part of it. And then as far as students motivated for the external ILO assessments, the students don't take the assessment personally. It's a rubric that faculty score, but it is a direct assessment of faculty observation of their.
Thank you, Tricia. Thank you for answering those questions.
Sure. Okay, so I'm gonna, like I said, I'm gonna stop sharing. I'm gonna pass the ball to Jennifer because I think sometimes it's helpful to see the visualizations in Tableau and to see what we are speaking about when we talk about our analysis and action guide, because without the Tableau dashboards, faculty wouldn't be able to enter into the process in quite the same way.
Thanks, Tricia. So I'll share my screen now with our course SLO dashboard, and maybe I'll zoom in a bit. There we go. So, there. So when we're taking a look at our course student learning outcome dashboard, when faculty are completing that analysis and action guide that Tricia walked everyone through, this is the dashboard that they're looking at in order to analyze the data. And just to orient you a bit to the dashboard, here on this right-hand side, all of our dashboards always include filters where faculty can find the courses that they want to look at results for. This is data pulled directly from the assessments that are given in Canvas. And here we're looking at Anthropology 1. We have data, we're actually updating the dashboard right now because we're going to be analyzing the data this fall. And so there'll be more terms in here, but faculty can look at specific terms of data or all of the terms together, as well as our modality filter, in person or online. Moving forward, we'll have asynchronous versus synchronous as well. And then we have which SLOs down here for Anthro 1 or any other course that faculty are looking at. So they can click on the specific SLO to see the results. For Anthro 1, their first student learning outcome is explain how evolution has shaped the development and biology of humans. And then we can see down here, for our first question in the analysis and action guide, we start kind of at the top of the dashboard and we look at participation rates. So we can see here that the total course enrollments, this is all course sections across the board for each of these semesters, hover around like 350 to 400 enrollments per semester. And then we see how many students participated. So for Anthro 1, for the SLO 1, the participation rate was quite low. It wasn't completely representative of all students in all classes. And we really want to strive to get up to that 80% participation rate, which is what is in our analysis and action guide. So this might be an area of focus in looking at the dashboard for the faculty in anthropology to discuss, how do we get more students to participate in the assessment? Are there certain course sections that maybe aren't participating where we could send reminders and encourage faculty to ensure that their students participate? How do we increase this participation rate? We also have this area over here that includes the average assessment scores. Consistently for these 3 semesters, we were above our 70% expected level of achievement, but faculty can still look at this data and analyze it as a part of the analysis and action guide if all of their course SLOs meet that expected level of achievement. So they'd kind of write about, yes, we met this each semester, but we're still focusing on it because we believe there's more room for improvement that we could do. For Anthro 1 and this SLO, they analyzed via a quiz over time. And I think this is probably the most helpful part of our dashboard, whether we're looking at it from a rubric or for a quiz, because what it enables, because we do the assessments in Canvas, it enables us to get very specific with the data that we're looking at. And so we can see these 4 quiz questions here are some of the quiz questions that are utilized to assess this specific SLO. And while students seem across the board each semester to be doing pretty well on the question number 1, question number 2, and question number 4, consistently students were really struggling with this question 3. In cold places, mammals tend to have thicker, warmer fur. How does this happen? And if we hover over the overall score for this question, we can see what are students selecting as their responses. And the green response is the correct answer. And then those red bars on the right are the incorrect options. And we can see that for each of these, a lot of students are gravitating toward that third response. The cold climate encourages mutation to actively create the warm fur animals will need. And this might be an area of focus in the analysis and action guide to talk through, you know, how are we teaching this concept? Why might students be missing this question? And really focus in on, yes, we have this overall assessment score and we meet the expected level of achievement, but students really are not all understanding this concept to the degree that we would hope that they would understand it, and focusing in specifically on maybe taking an action and analyzing this data more specifically to improve student learning in relation to evolution. And so we can disaggregate this data further as well, and I'm going to aggregate it together to do this. But we can see this is the data aggregated for all 3 of those terms, and we can disaggregate by race, ethnicity, as well as gender to see differences in student scores and identify potential equity gaps for student learning. So this is the third part of our analysis and action guide. Faculty are asked to look at online versus face-to-face, at course SLO assessment scores, as well as disaggregated by race, ethnicity, and gender. And I'm just going to focus in on race, ethnicity right now, and we can see kind of where some of these equity gaps may lie, especially in relation to question 1 and question 3 with our Latinx students and our Asian and Filipino students. We are still working out a few kinks in this dashboard, so it's kind of duplicating the questions here for different semesters. But for these semesters, we can see across the board, students did not do well on question 3 again. And so we really want to focus in on that as well. So faculty would do an analysis on this to really determine, you know, where are some equity gaps that we could potentially address to support student learning and closing those equity gaps. And we're going to have this. So this was the first iteration of the dashboard that faculty used about 2 years ago. So we're very excited because we're going to have a lot more data. We've been collecting data every semester since our last analysis and action year. And so moving forward, we're going to have quite a bit more data to really look at patterns over time and determine, you know, are changes that are being made really making an impact on this data. So any questions about the dashboard overall?
Jennifer.
Oh yeah.
I'm glad that you mentioned that you're going to be looking at the patterns, you know, and so but what are you going to do? What are you going to be doing with the data after you look at any significant changes or, you know, improvements?
Say that again, Enrique. Sorry.
What you say you will be going to be looking at patterns of the data to see what's happening, especially with the desired data. Is my speaker working?
Oh yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. What are you gonna be doing with the data? What do you do afterwards? I mean, what happens?
So this is so the faculty actually would be the ones looking for patterns or identifying, you know, trends, not necessarily myself or anyone in institutional effectiveness. Of course, we can help support if they have questions, but they'll be the ones looking for those patterns. And I guess the next step kind of ties into the SLO talk for next week, which will be, you know, when faculty are determining actions based on that analysis, they'll be the ones implementing those, and then we'll revisit the data again to see if those are working.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because then you have to close the loop, right?
Exactly.
You know, right. That was the reason I mentioned that, you know. And then what support does the Long Beach faculty have with the institutional research office?
They have a lot of support actually for, we have a specific student learning outcomes analyst that we just hired, and he's here today as well, listening in on the presentation. So they have myself, our SLO analyst, and of course the whole team. A lot of our research analysts contribute to not only building the dashboards, but answering faculty questions. And so there's quite a bit of support from our office for our faculty, especially our SLO facilitators, but for all faculty engaging not only with SLOs, but with student achievement data, course success rates, persistence, we have our researchers really paired with different departments to help support.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
One other thing related to support is that Jennifer and our SLO analyst, will be with me in the coming weeks, right? We're getting ready to start analyzing and acting on our data again because it's been 2 years since our last SLO cycle. So we're in an action year at the current moment, right? And so in November, we're going to be offering faculty what we call analysis and action workshops. And so the 4 workshops given at different times that faculty can attend to also get the support. First, Jennifer will be there, our SLO analyst will be there. And so we have institutional effectiveness support. And then of course, I think I had mentioned we have a group of SLO facilitators who are faculty liaisons, if you will, who take the lead to help faculty enter into data analysis and action, of course, with the support of IE.
Tricia and Jennifer, you guys have a wonderful dashboard. How difficult was it to create that?
It's pretty difficult. It took really, I think the most difficult part isn't necessarily in the design of the dashboard. It's extracting the data from Canvas. The Canvas data can be really complicated, very messy on the back end when we pull it. So it looks really nice on the front end when students are completing assessments or faculty are entering grades or scores. But on the back end, the data gets really, really complicated. And that has been the most challenging part, more so than building out a easy to understand kind of like front-facing dashboard. It's really making sure and validating that data, making sure that it's accurate, pulling it out correctly. We had a big thing with coding appearing in a lot of the words that we had to clean up. So it's a very challenging dashboard to create in that sense. But we feel fortunate to we have a robust institutional effectiveness team. We also have a data scientist on our team who's really advanced in knowledge about back end APIs and softwares. And so he really was instrumental in pulling Canvas data and really being able to help us build the dashboard.
Thank you, Jennifer. Tricia, Jarek, you have any questions?
No, this truly is a remarkable effort. That's all I can say. I know, Jennifer, it's as much as we strive for simplicity, what you've done is just truly remarkable. Would this be okay? Could you please share the links to those dashboards? Are those available to the public? We can just kind of like, look at them.
They're unfortunately not, Yarek,
okay.
Because they're internal. We do have some kind of higher level program SLO and institutional SLO data outside, but we would have to de-identify the entire data set to share it publicly because it could be accessed not by people here in this room, but like the back end data. We don't want someone to hack it and get all the identifying information with our students. So unfortunately, no, but we would be happy to share some screenshots, that type of thing, if our faculty were okay with us sharing specific data.
Yes. We certainly don't want to infringe upon confidentiality or rules that you may have at the college. That's not an issue. Yeah, so screenshots would be just fine. Really appreciate this. Great work, fantastic. I believe Penny had a question earlier on. I am so sorry, but I missed it on my.
Tricia addressed it in her.
Oh, she did. Okay, so we are okay already then. And then I think it's Jacqueline, right?
No, it wasn't a question.
It's just a Tableau training, yeah.
Yeah, every single week Tableau comes up and we have access to Tableau. I just don't seem to have access to training. So it seems like every Friday I'm sending a request going, could I please get training on Tableau?
Yeah, so we are going to have one more talk, I believe 2-3 weeks ago from now, that specifically deals with data. But Jennifer, perhaps you could speak to this because, we don't necessarily want to have on campuses everybody trained because people will not necessarily use it to the extent that's necessary, right? So probably it is a good idea to have someone like you who is a specialist who knows it all, a person who would address all these issues and just kind of like, make them happen in real time. Would you be able to just summarize your process at Long Beach City College, how exactly do you interact with Tableau, and who else has access or who does what with it?
Yeah, so all of our full-time faculty right now and all of our management team have access to Tableau. They have access to different dashboards, though. Not everybody has access to the same dashboards. So like management and student services or in administrative and business services isn't going to have access to the SLO dashboards because it doesn't make sense for them to have access to it. So we have kind of a data infrastructure where all of our full-time faculty have access to specific dashboards. I can just show you a quick view of our main. This is like from my perspective, not everybody can see this, but these are all our different types of dashboards that we have: strategic plan dashboards, dashboards that update on a daily basis, service outcomes. Our summary dashboards have student achievement data, our SLO dashboards. So we have many different types of dashboards, and the ways that we provide support really vary. For SLO specifically, Trisha and I work together to hold workshops, which we actually have some upcoming ones where faculty can engage with the dashboards. We walk through the dashboards, we answer questions in breakout rooms, and they're open to all faculty to attend. But we also, it is something that we do a lot of one-on-one support for too. If faculty email with a question, I either meet with them, maybe answer their question via email if I can, send screenshots, or we just meet together and go through something, not just for SLOs, but for all of our other dashboards used for planning and program review as well. But we do also have, now we have our specific SLO analyst to help support with questions related to Tableau, as well as we have someone specifically for planning and program review in addition to myself as an analyst, and we have our research analyst team. So a lot of the times our faculty reach out directly to our different team members to get their questions answered, but we also hold those larger workshop opportunities to learn together with those who would like to be there to kind of work through things in a group environment. So we kind of provide both of those options.
Thank you, Jennifer. Thank you, Trisha. Thank you so much for your wonderful job. Our next presenter, it's Fred. Fred, are you ready? And go ahead and unmute yourself.
Yes, I'm ready.
You can share.
Okay. Give me just one moment here.
While he's doing that, I highly encourage you to read the chat. I know Jarek posted the different things in the chat. I refer you to the guide of student learning assessment. Please download it.
Okay, can everyone see that?
Yes, yes.
Excellent. Okay, excellent presentation, Trisha and Jennifer. That's a hard act to follow. Very professional, very detailed. Mine is not as detailed, but easy to follow and very simplified and specific to our profession. So as I said in my introduction, I am the Fresno City College Dental Hygiene Program clinical lead. So I lead all the dental hygiene clinics within the program, which is our clinical education portion. And I'm just going to talk to you a little bit about how we assess that from a data standpoint. So our SLO assessment is driven by competencies. So, of course, competency, they are they have sufficient, they have sufficient knowledge, judgment, skill, and strength. And there's different types of competencies. The type of competency that we use in our program is really one of the functional type of competencies or techno competencies, because it's very job specific and to, you know, a given field like ours in the dental hygiene program. The Fresno City Dental Hygiene Program, clinical education, has different type of competencies depending on the type of clinic you're in, and there's a total of 40, and they're given over a span of 3 semesters. The basic grading or evaluation system is very student friendly. All the clinical skill evaluations consist of 3 grading criteria components. A, for acceptable, meaning the skill was performed as stated without error. The next one is NI, or needs improvement, meaning during the skill, a student had 1 to 3 minor errors that was observed, they would receive an NI. And then S, so S would be standard not met. So 4 or more minor errors or 1 or more critical error was done, and that they would receive an S with that. So there's 3 different types of clinics within the Fresno City Dental Hygiene program. So our DH5A clinic 1 is first year clinic. They have the competency evaluations. They require a DH student to pass with at least a minimum 75% clinical level. In the second clinic, which is the second year clinic, is the 3rd semester, requires the DH student to pass at a minimum level of 80% clinical level. And then of course the 4th semester and their final semester, they need to pass their competencies at a minimum of 85% clinical level. The DH program is designed, whether it's academic or clinical, to show progression as you advance to the next clinical semester. So, you know, resulting in practice ready clinicians by the time they reach graduation. So they start at very basic, you know, the product. Then second clinic is more of the process, understanding the process of the competencies. And then by the 3rd semester and graduation, everything just all comes together, and they should be, as they pass the clinical competencies, they should be ready for practice. The DH, the dental hygiene competencies, as I stated, they become more complex as you advance through the clinical education process, and along with that, of course, they're worth more points as students, you know, advance to the next clinic. DH students must complete all the required CEs to successfully move on in the program. If one CE is not completed or missed by the end of, you know, the last clinical day, that student does not move on. They will receive an incomplete or have to redo the semester, do that clinical semester all over again, which means they would have to wait a full year for it to come back around. So it could be very disheartening for a student not to, you know, complete a CE, but it does happen. In DH5A, which is that first year clinic, the competency evaluation forms, they consist of 10 evaluation criteria for a total of 20 points. And there are 12 of those 12 competency evaluations. So as I stated in the couple slides back, the A, the NI, and the S. A is for acceptable, NI is for needs improvement, and S is for 0. So depending on what type of clinic it is, which clinic it is, that A and I are S, you know, is a different point value. The S is always 0, but the A and NI could have different values attached to it. To show progression. So in DH5B, which is the second clinic, same 10 evaluation criteria worth 30 points. The A is worth 3, NI is worth 2, and the S is worth 0. And they have 14 of those competency evaluations. And then in DH5C, same 10 items worth 40 points total, but the A is worth 4 points, NI is 2, and then the S is 0, of course. So this is a look at the different competencies for our first year clinic. So it starts very basic, infection control, medical health history, extraoral, intraoral, teeth occlusion, and there's 12 of these. So these competencies, they are driven by our accreditation. So we have accreditation, which is CODA, Commission on Dental Accreditation, and they have a certain criteria that we must meet to be accredited program, and we bring our competencies from there. That's where our competencies are derived from there. Second year clinic, which is DH5B, 13 through 26. These are a list of those competencies. So you may have noticed that you're seeing a lot of duplicates. In 5A, there are infection control and medical health history. Same here. It was infection control, health and medical health history, extraoral, intraoral exam. So a lot of duplicates in the beginning of these competencies depending on the clinic. It's designed to show progression. So the infection control in DH5A is a little bit different than the one in DH5B. They're asked to do more things and to take it to the next level. And I'll give you an idea of that when I show my screen, and you can kind of take a look at the different competencies in detail. And there is the DH5C competency evaluations. So it's a total of 40. So our competencies are derived from our course objectives. And this right here is a list of the course objectives. There's a typo here. This is from our second year clinic. So not DH5A, but these are DH5B course objectives. And these course objectives are derived from, like I said, our accredited body. So there's a certain amount of skills or things that they require for the student to learn to sit, for the examination at the end of 2 years. What I've done is I've taken the liberty to highlight the course objectives that fit within some of our competency evaluations. And that's what you're looking at in the orange. For instance, this one is for DH5B course objectives, administer local anesthetic in a safe manner to provide pain control utilizing appropriate precautions and technique procedures. This ties right into the competency evaluations that the student must complete during, clinical patient care, which is 24 and 25. And then another one is to treat more complex cases at an intermediate level. So this is a little bit different from first year clinic. Second year clinic, they have more complex patients, intermediate and at an advanced skill, clinical skill, and that is evaluated through competencies 21 and 22. Lastly, they need to, another course objective for DH5B, which is second year clinic, they need to perform soft tissue curettage to achieve safe clinical outcomes. That is detailed and shown when they complete evaluation, competency evaluation number 26. This is a list of the SLOs for DH5B Clinic 2. And these SLOs were derived directly from the course objectives. So just really, we really try to simplify things, as much as possible. So the first SLO is treatment of complex cases utilizing intermediate to advanced clinical skills appropriate, for that particular clinical level. And that is shown in CEs 21, 22, 23, and 26, which in the next few slides, I'll give you an idea of what those look like. Second SLO was identifying and documenting abnormalities, during oral inspections, during the patient's treatment, CEs 15 and 16. And then lastly, pain control. Again, all these SLOs were derived completely from our course objectives. And that's the last one is CEs 24 and 25. So let me show you a idea of our competencies here. Can everyone see my screen still?
Yes.
Excellent. So infection control competency. These are the 12 competencies that are done in DH5A clinic, and they're very clear and concise on what the student needs to demonstrate during clinical care. And this is just the infection control one. We have a medical health history. There's 10 items, and they're very clear. The point values are there. It's really non-confrontational in clinic. Most of the time, the instructor or the supervising faculty, they'll just put a check right here, and they really never add up all the points. I'll add them up at the end of the semester, and they'll be placed in the grade book. So most students, depending on the clinic, they know by heart, what an A, NI, or S, is what the values of them are. But the faculty don't really have to do any of the math or anything. They just need to put a check here or a signature there. It's really clear and concise. So these are an example of, how detailed the competency is. So it really breaks down, everything that the student will need to exemplify or be competent in doing an extraoral, intraoral, or teeth occlusion here. And if they can do it without error, they would get an A. If they, miss it or something is just not quite right, they will get an NI. And if they just completely bomb it, of course it's a 0. And they need to achieve to pass this, they need to get at least at a 75% clinical level. The other thing that I wanted to mention with these competencies, from the clinical education side, it's a mini test in the clinic. That's what I give to the students. So when they are ready to do a competency and they're working on a patient or doing patient care, they let us know. It's not during clinic, we don't say, okay, it's week 2, everyone needs to do health history or infection control. They let us know when they are ready to to do one of these competencies, and they've done this skill over and over doing patient care with each and every patient. So they are well, prepared by the time they sit for one of these competencies. And should a student not, pass one of these, they will look at what they missed. The instructor will talk to them, and they can get remediation on them. And then usually once they take it again, they are able to pass it with flying colors. An example of the 5B. One with, let's say, infection control, medical health history. So it's a step up. It has to be, they need to pass it at an 80% competency level. And with this one, it's more, they need to have a more complex medical health history. So at least 2 systemic diseases, the patient needs to be taking, at least two prescriptions, whether that's an RX or over the counter. So the next clinic, the medical health history is a little bit more involved, even though it's a medical health history competency. And again, the clinics are designed to show progression as they go through, each clinic. 5C, medical health history. Let's see if I can get to it without passing it up. So 5C, medical health history is, it has a credits health history. So they do a clinical board exam at the end of the program that they sit for. And this clinical board exam, they have to do a medical health history. So this CE is tied to that medical health history form that they would see when they do their clinical board. And it really helps them out on filling out their information and what type of patient they need to be looking for by the time they graduate or get to their clinical board. So again, all of this is designed to show progression. I'm going to just toggle to CE number 15 for purposes of showing the data for just going back to the second clinic. So with the second clinic on for the first SLO that I had, it talked about, or maybe that was the second SLO, it talked about showing abnormalities and inspection. So CE number 15, the extra oral and intra-oral examination, this CE is the one that I would look at for the students. Same thing with the gingival examination. So I would look at the completion rate and the scores that we usually have 30 students in each class. So when trying to figure out or, to see if the SLO was satisfied or it needs tweaking, I would look at the pass rate or the data that these two SLOs yield here. The extra oral examination and then the gingival examination. I am going to go back to my PowerPoint here. Okay, so going back to my PowerPoint here, in trying to figure out or doing the math with our SLOs at the very end, this is an example of how.
Fred,
Yes.
are you sharing your PowerPoint? Still,
Yeah.
you're still on the,
You can't see my new screen?
no.
Okay. Sorry. What about now?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So in doing the math at the end of the semester when trying to satisfy my SLOs, I will take, depending on what SLO it's for, I would look at that CE. There's usually 30 students in the class. And if I'm just looking at DH5B, 1 CE equals 30 points, 30 students. So it's a total of 900 points. And this is just a hypothetical, but let's just say 15 students, score 27 out of 30 points on it. That equals, 405. and then the 15 students, get perfect scores on it. It's as simple as adding up, dividing it by the total score, and as a class, it's a 95% rate. So I usually have, between a 95 to 100% pass rate with the CEs. And one of the reasons that pass rate is so high is because the students understand from the beginning that they're not going to do that CE until they are ready for it. If it's a local anesthesia, one that they need to give, they are prompted and encouraged not to try to do that CE on the first time that they give that injection in clinic. Usually they've done it multiple times, and they are ready, for that CE and the criteria by the time they reach that test. So for our clinic, we have a really high pass rate for the CEs that are put together. Another thing I wanted to mention with our CEs, even though they're derived from our course objectives, which is derived from our accrediting body or our accreditation, the faculty are heavily involved. We put all those the competency evaluations together, and it's deliberated and based on the course objective. So and it's tweaked often to add or delete things or to make things very simplified for the student, to keep it student friendly. So this isn't a slide of how I show at the end of the semester that the SLO that was stated was successful. SLO number 1, treatment of complex cases utilizing intermediate to advanced skill appropriate to the level of education in clinic 2. That was shown in CE 21, 22, 23, and 26. And these particular CEs are designed for advanced patient. So the skill level that the student must have to complete an advanced patient really ties into this. The soft tissue curettage is an advanced skill. A first-year student has not learned that or had that type of complex patient. Power instrumentation competency, the student, this is an advanced instrumentation, and the same thing with these two here, the area specific anterior current and posterior current. They're both advanced instrumentations, instruments that are used on complex patients. And then when you get within the CE, they are very specific on what the student needs to be doing. But with this particular SLO, 100% pass rate. If I really wanted to get more data in this and get into specific questions, I could do that as well. So I could get more detailed in this with the more detailed data with the questions if I need to. But most often for these purposes, it's not needed. SLO2, identifying and documenting abnormalities observed during oral inspections. Same thing. I just really state, what competencies they that focused in on that, and then I give my data with that. And again, 100% pass rate. And again, even at the very end, when our benchmark was met, we still discuss our competencies to see, how they can be improved, or, if something needs to be added to make it student friendly and also to make sure that we continue to push that envelope and show progression so, the students are practice ready. And this is the SLO number 3, the pain control. The 2 C's that tie to that are the local anesthesia, as a PSA nerve block and an IA nerve block. Students perform these 2 injections within the clinic many times before they sit for the competency. And should they not meet that 80% or 80% pass rate, then they are remediated with whatever skill or situation that they did wrong, and they're able to retake it. So COVID-19 pandemic updates. The competency evaluations were previously on hard copy and bound within the student's clinical education folder. And, to have 12 or 14 of those bound in their folder it really just kind of made it really thick. But since the pandemic and infection control issues, those have been moved and uploaded on Canvas, in digital form. And as Tricia and Jennifer alluded to, it's the plugging in the data and and setting it up was a task, but it makes it so much easier because Canvas kind of does everything for you, and it's really completely staff friendly and student friendly now that the competency evaluations are uploaded on the Canvas shell. And as I talked about before, students, they are able to alert, the supervising faculty during clinic sessions when they're ready to complete the CE. Sometimes the clinicians may not be thinking about, completing the CE, but they're doing a skill and they've done it well in the past, and the faculty member is familiar with that. And they may suggest that at the beginning of a clinic session. It was like, hey, you're going to be doing you're going to be doing gingival curettage, or you may be doing administering a shot on this patient, which there's a competency evaluation for this. I've seen you do that in the past. You might want to consider, completing the CE today with that. And students usually are very receptive to the suggestions that the faculty, the clinical faculty are given. All competency evaluations are completed with direct patient care. So it's not on a mannequin, it's not simulated. Everything is during direct patient care. So we definitely know and understand when the student is completing a competency evaluation that they are competent if they get all those 9 items of criteria correct. Absolutely. And lastly, last thing that I want to share. Just one moment. I wanted to show my screen on what the digital competency would look like in the Canvas shell, but I can't get to that screen. But my predecessor, Mimi Myers, showed that last week, and it looks very, very similar. Any questions?
Thank you, Fred. Where do I start? So many so many wonderful things. Thank you for your presentation. First question, can you share your rubrics? Is that possible? Or...
Yeah, our program is all about sharing.
Okay.
Yeah, and those rubrics, they're a combination of everything our program is kind of went through in different phases. So I would say back 5 years ago, our clinical education was pass, no pass. So these rubrics and competency evaluations were put together with long hours of work by, our faculty and, advisors from other programs. So it's a combination of, a lot of things that kind of put all this together. This is not something that just happened overnight. And now we are not a pass, no pass program. The students actually receive a grade now, and it's a lot better, because when it was pass or no pass, I mean, it was a gray area there, and it was hard to tell who was, I mean, an A student and a C student was similarly the same. They still passed the course, and there is some variant there, and students really appreciate that, because you can kind of definitely see that level. Within our program, everyone needs to maintain, whether it's clinical or academic, a 75% pass level rate. So we've just been able to assess our clinical portion through the A, the NI, the S, and the competencies, and it works really beautifully.
Thank you. If you can share with me, then I'll send it to Jarek, and maybe Jerry, you can email to all the participants. That'll be wonderful.
Absolutely.
I like to see, the competency progression. I mean, it's really, really nice to see, that the students are learning the skills and competencies from the very beginning to the start. I mean, wow, talking about getting your hands dirty, right?
Yeah.
And it's this is what Jarek and I were, we had multiple conversations about how do you, acquire the progression and how you report it. That's, because at the end of the day, it's we're looking at the skills and competencies of the students. Jarek?
Yes, Fred, fantastic work. Thank you very much for sharing. Really, really appreciate your contribution. Just on the last point here, direct patient care, does this mean that students are evaluated on a live patient? Is that what it really means?
That's what that means, sir.
Wow.
Yeah, those competencies are not done on a mannequin or peer-to-peer. They're live patients, real time, and the student is evaluated on that. Yeah, that's how we show competency. That's how it's going to be out when they get out in the field. So it's that's the way that we do it. Great.
Thank you for sharing that. I do have a question about your 100% success rates, though. What would you contribute this? It was 2-3 slides earlier, I think, when you said, this specific competency 100% success rate, which obviously is remarkable. That's what we all strive for, right? But the question that I have is, what do you think contributes to this? Is it simply students working hard enough? Do they have enough preparation for the course? Do you believe that the competency that students are learning are perhaps easy for them at that level? Or what would be a good way from pedagogical perspective, from your perspective as a faculty? Because like in other, hey, I'm trying to get this from math faculty, right? Or English for that matter. 100% in my course, and how is that going to happen? So what would you contribute the success rate in your course?
I would contribute the success rate to it's job specific, first of all, and yes, they are working really hard, and it's a lot of repetition before they take that CE. A lot of repetition. So a student, by the time they get to second year clinic and they are, they need to show competency in giving local anesthesia, a different type of injection, they've probably been given that injection for about a year before they show competency in it, and made many mistakes beforehand, but never was graded at a competency level. And then that competency was not available to them. So even though we have those 40 competencies, maybe the shot that they're given, they've been given it since first semester, but it's not really, they're not able to get graded for it or getting truly evaluated for it until the third semester. So a lot of repetition, a
Wow.
lot of hard work, a lot of focus, you know, on the faculty portion, faculty side, and just really getting them ready for these competencies. Now, all the SLOs, it's not always 100%. Like I said, there's sometimes there's one or two clinics where a student may, you know, not sit for. So every now and then I'll have 28 or 29 out of 30 where I have 2 or 3 students that don't complete 1 or 2 competencies, and that may be part of the SLO. And then that percentage is like 95% or 97%, but we're always in the 90s. Very
Wow.
rarely have I seen something in the high 80s. I mean, in the 80s or something like that. But once those SLOs from my clinical education course is stated, that is really that's the focus. We really focus on that throughout that particular clinic with those students and the competency evaluation. So that's why that percentage is so high. But absolutely, students do the work. We don't do the work. We just really hone in and have them focus on that work. So.
Well, it's just that, you know, again, what you're describing, I believe, is a very, very important consideration for pretty much all disciplines are out there. See, when you play out the program correctly, then at the end of it, just like you indicated, assessment of competency is not a problem because students have had so much experience over time, right?
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe we just simply pay too much attention to specific things that students need to be doing within a very, very short period of time. If we were only allow them to explore, to get more repetition, more practice, just simply more exposure to opportunities to learn the specific skill in different contexts, then they probably would be much more successful. So perhaps that's where the stress on certificate and program should be from that perspective, rather than from stringent course completion. So thank you so much. This is really, really enlightening to me. I really appreciate those comments.
Thank you, Eric. Thank you, Eric. And Brad has been very modest. I know we do have, and they do have very wonderful clinic serving our students. And Freddie, you can talk about it just for a quick minute. Talk about your clinic and who you serve, and you know, if you have no insurance, what happens?
Yeah, we are located in the health science building, which is right across from the new parking lot, the parking garage, that big old parking garage behind off Blackstone, behind Kentucky Fried Chicken and the new Wendy's. And we serve the general public. We serve the community. Students recruit from the schools within the area. Our clinic runs Monday through Thursday from 8 to 5. Depending on the day, it may just be a half day, but if you give our DH clinic a call, we always are, you know, welcoming and to serve. We serve a lot of the faculty and students and staff on campus, and the students are always, you know, willing and open to give oral health presentations. We get out in the community, we do different outreach programs. So it's a really nice clinic. We have a high standard, and we take it, the staff and the faculty and the whole department, we take it real personal that these hygienists are going to be out working on, you know, you and within the community. So we make sure that by the time they leave our program, they are practice ready. Absolutely.
Thank you so much. And last question, I think Julie Peters, would you like to ask your question?
Sorry, sure. All of our medical programs particularly value the fact that they have an external certification. And I know that your dental hygiene does as well for the students. And I'm just curious whether your placement result or your pass rates of those external exams parallel your faculty assessments of the students' learning outcomes.
Absolutely, meaning the pass rate of their clinical and national exam.
Yes.
Absolutely. We are in the high to low 90 percentile with the students. Some students, at the very end, they may not sit for the clinical exam or the national board right away for whatever reason. They've been in the program for 2 years, but those that sit, our pass rate and placement are in the 90 percentile. I don't have the exact percentage rate because I'm not that deep into the administration portion of it. But absolutely. And once they receive their licensure and pass, all the necessary tests, that it's in the high 90 percentile too, that they find employment, wherever they are. So it definitely coincides. It's not as high as 100%, but it's definitely in the high 90s, mid to high 90s.
Thank you. Thank
Fred.
you.
Thank you, Fred. Thank you. Wonderful presentation. If you can stop sharing. Once again, thank you. Our next presenter. Share my screen. Our next presenter will be Julie from Really College. Julie, are you ready? And would you like to introduce yourself? Please introduce yourself and what is your position and where you're from.
Hi, my name is Julie Kehoe. I am a math instructor at Reedley College here in the Central Valley of California. And I'm here to talk about SLO assessment and how I've found ways to simplify this really by using alternative assessment practices and more of like a standards-based grading method with this. Now, back when we were a year into the pandemic, and I was really just not happy with how my grading was set up. Assessment was a lot of work, that kind of thing. And so I went about changing everything that I did to assess my students. And it kind of had this unintended or consequence of making outcome assessment so much easier, and also making my outcome assessment align better with, or I should say my success rates align better with my outcomes in the course. And so if we think about, a lot of the challenges that we face with getting people to do outcome assessment, I've been an outcomes coordinator before in the past. I'm currently a program review coordinator. So I usually, I'm really pushing people to do this stuff, but it's usually viewed as just too much work. We get to the end of the semester, we don't want to bother with taking this extra step of filling out paperwork and collecting data, things like that. And so we end up with either low participation or not a very good analysis of the data that's done. It's kind of just checking a box. And so it just ends up being not a very meaningful process. But if you're doing more of a standards-based grading, then you get a lot of benefits. A lot of these issues kind of go away. It really simplifies outcome assessment and putting all that data together at the end of all your assessments, and it makes the success rates actually line up. I did a lot of changing of practices to be more equitable so that I'm really just focusing on what are the outcomes of the course, what are the objectives that are the skills that I want my students to learn to achieve those outcomes, and that's the only thing I'm assessing them on. That's the only thing I'm grading them on as well. And so just to get an idea of what it looks like when you're all done with this, here's an example of a class I taught this summer. The yellow is the students who they didn't achieve that actual outcome. And you can see that students that missed at least 2 or 3 or all 4 of them were getting D's and F's in the course. So the success and the actual learning of the outcomes really lines up here. And if we go up a little bit to look at the C's, you can see these students, they're getting at least 3, if not at least 3 of the outcomes, or well, there's a couple that have 2. So it really lines up well, your success rates. And the reason why it's not totally consistent is my SLO, some are bigger than others in the course. So for instance, my SLO 3, there's a lot more skills involved in achieving that outcome. And so that one has a little bit higher degree of effect on the overall grade for students in the class. So that's kind of the benefits of this. Everything lines up really nicely. if you're interested in doing this kind of thing, what I did was I went through, I looked at my outline of record and pulled my outcomes and all the objectives that were listed and boiled that down to a list of skills that I wanted to assess my students on. And then I created a detailed rubric for each one of these that I provided to my students, so they knew exactly what I was looking for when I was going to be assessing them on each of these skills. And then once I had all those skills and all the rubrics created, I mapped up each skill to one of the outcomes. So some of them have like 7 skills for a particular outcome, or some even had more. But each of these skills were mapped to one. So there's nothing that I was assessing or grading my students on that didn't align with an outcome for the course. And then I just assess those throughout the semester. And at the end, do a really quick calculation of gathering that information. I used Canvas and just downloaded the rubric to really quickly figure out how my students did on the outcomes by combining all of their scores on the skills that mapped to each outcome. So just as a really quick, small example, so for my first SLO in, this is Calculus 2, there were 7 skills that I identified that they needed to achieve the outcome. And I assessed these over 2 exams. So I can clearly see, okay, these first 4, I'm assessing all those on exam 1 and the other 2 on exam 2. And then I can just add their scores up for those 2 exams. And if I'm doing this at a student level, I can just divide their score by the total possible. And I've got how they did on that outcome. Very quick calculation. And if I wanted to look at an overall for all the students in the class, I can just add those up and divide by the points possible as well. So I get some really great data out of this just by structuring my class in this way. And it's really not a lot of work to get the data in the end. And then I can spend more time doing a good analysis of what that data is actually telling me about how my students are doing and what I can do to kind of help improve their outcomes and their success rates in the course. And that is all I had. I wanted to keep it short in case there were questions.
So Julie, if you don't mind, my question again, considering what Fred just said about his students, who are somewhat bound to achieve this 100% mastery on different competencies by design, so to speak, right? So Fred spoke about the importance of students having enough exposure to the subject matter, repetition, enough practice before the actual assessment at the end of the perhaps sequence of courses, not just one, because he also spoke about the importance of making sure that at each level students explore in greater depth skills and competencies that are necessary for them to be eventually successful. Your success rate here, 89, 96, and so forth.
Oh, I made those numbers up. Sorry.
Sorry.
I made those numbers up here. The actual,
and that's just fine.
I just grabbed some here. These are actual students.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
Sorry.
So let's just say that they are much less. If you could please comment on this, what's the story here? Are students not given enough time to practice? Do they come to your courses with lesser degree of preparation? There's just not enough support. I mean, math is hey, the whole planet stands on math, right? If you could please comment on this, would be great. What is your perspective? What's your take on it?
So some things to keep in mind when we look at this data is this was a 6-week summer class of Calculus 2 that was online. So the success rates are going to be a little bit lower, unfortunately, I think because of all those additional things. And we don't have as many supports available for the students in the summer. We do have a math center that's open, but the hours are a little bit more limited and it's a little bit harder to get help for a class of this level. But to kind of mitigate some of this, some of the other changes that I made for students is the schedule is flexible. So I have a schedule with deadlines, but students are able to work beyond those deadlines without even needing to ask for more time from me. They just need to get everything done by the end. And so it gives them a little more flexibility. So if they need a little bit more time on a particular topic, they can take that time without even having to ask for permission. And I also do retakes. So if a student doesn't do well in that first exam, then I will give them a bunch of feedback and give them a new exam where they can reattempt that skill and see if they have improved on it. So again, in a 6-week, this is a little bit more challenging. It's hard to get all that in, but I am seeing, as I get better at this, I've been doing this for a little over a year now, I'm starting to see an upward trend of my success rates. Part of it is just kind of learning to better communicate all these changes. Students aren't used to, particularly in a math class, they're not used to being able to do a retake, not used to a flexible schedule, that kind of thing. So that has had a little bit, I think, of effect on the data, but I am seeing an upward trend of improvement. Does that answer your question, Yuri?
Yes, it certainly does. Right. So let's just say that the success rate is somewhat lower. It's still a success rate. So my question would be, what do you think can be done, considering that it is an online course in the summer, to simply look at those rates and say, okay, what can we do to do better so that our students or I don't know, perhaps placement of student comes to mind, right? If you had students who are better prepared for the course, okay, why don't we offer this course for students who are ready to be successful in it? What's your take on it, or what are they? If you have any checks and balances there to make sure that, again, students are prepared for the course and therefore successful.
I mean, well, this class has a prerequisite of Calculus 1, so I definitely hope that they have that, but there are definitely some struggles. And I mean, AB 705 could be something that we're starting to see effects of because we don't have students remediating as much. And algebra skills and trig skills are way more important in this course than students usually realize. And so if they're not as prepared there, I think that makes a difference. Honestly, I'd love to see everybody in my department kind of take more of a standards-based approach to grading and get away from things like grading calculating homework grades as part of their grade and late penalties and things like that, because I think it skews the grades. I know that's why I made the changes. I was seeing students that were passing my class that maybe I didn't think they should be passing, but they had done all the homework and it was enough to inflate their grade to a point where they could pass. So I think if we were more focused on, if we had our outcomes aligned better with our success rates, then I think our students would be more prepared by the time they got to that next class in the sequence.
That's it. That's why we are having these conversations, because that's exactly the topic, right? That again, we want to make sure that our students are successful, that they can do certain things rather than just complete courses. Because you're absolutely right. There is all kinds of configurations that come into the grade, and you're right. C+ here versus B- somewhere else. Nobody really knows. Sky's the limit as to what went into the composition of that grade. Thank you so much. This is very insightful again. Thank you very much for the presentation. Jacqueline has a question about your chart. Jacqueline, would you like to speak to this?
So this is, okay, so I guess my issue is more with the imagery and what the image is trying to tell us. Because if I look at the chart on the left, what I see is that, first of all, not quite halfway down, I can see that it's possible to succeed in all of the SLO and still get a C. I can also see that it's possible to fail in more than one SLO and get a C. And it's also possible to fail in only one SLO and get a C. So this chart makes me question the grading system. Does that make sense? That I'm wondering if on a chart like this, if when we look at the grades compared to success in the SLO, because that left part of the table that's telling us about the SLO That is identifying to me where the weakness in the course or program is. So clearly SLO3, which in your weights is weighted quite heavily. So SLO3 is really important, and yet about 50% of your students struggle with that. So that part of the chart to me stands alone, and then combining it with the grades on the right side dilutes it and muddies the water. Does that make sense?
I think so. And that's why I included the weights, the weights on the right, is because that SLO3 is a huge outcome for this course. And there are numerous skills that fall under that outcome. And so that's why you see a lot of those C's. And I took out the numbers to not overwhelm the percentages of what each student got on these particular outcomes. But you can see at the top of that left, that most of those students with a low C, those are the lower C's, they're closer to a D. They're the ones that missed that SLO because it is such an important SLO for the course. And that's where I think I need to focus my efforts the most and to help improve my students' success and learning is on getting them to master that outcome. So that's really what I get out of looking at this data, knowing, you know, what those outcomes are and what skills my students need to achieve in order to be successful in that outcome. Does that make sense?
It does. It does. So you have two people there at the top who failed both SLO3 and failed SLO4. So I think what you're saying is, even though they failed, if I take the 44.6 plus the 17%, so they failed in 61% of the content and yet maintained a C.
So
that would make me question my grading system.
it's not a binary, like there's a scale for each one of these. If they've maybe passed, because SLO3, for instance, has numerous skills, maybe they only got a couple of those skills, whereas another student who maybe still failed it, but maybe they got half of the skills. So, I mean, there's a lot of variation here in terms of when it comes to the actual grade they get in the class, because I use a 4-point rubric. So it's kind of spreading things out a little bit. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot of wide variation of how you could pass or fail an outcome, especially when there's a lot of skills that are being assessed to determine how they did on that outcome.
I think also what you've done here is you've made an excellent argument, whether it was intended or not. You've made an excellent argument for us to question, what are we doing exactly with grades? Should we not be looking at competencies? So clearly you have, if C is considered average, and I don't know whether that's appropriate, like in our program, which is graduate level program, if you're making a C, you're failing. You don't get C's. It's essentially AB out, right? And so if C is considered average, is considered the mean, then your students appear to be doing okay with the C's. You would like to see them higher, of course, but they are passing with the C, which is the average grade. But I think this makes just an excellent argument, and it's really intriguing to see it presented this way, that the grades, the letter grades, are just jumping out at me at just, oh no, how did you manage to pass the class when you didn't master SLO3, which is so terribly important? You know, maybe this is a case, a really good argument for competency-based grading, or a portfolio type assessment or something like that, you know, it's really anyway, I don't want to come across like as if I'm criticizing you. That's not it. I'm just drawing out that these two things in this one chart give a really intriguing picture.
Yeah, and something to keep in mind with my grade scale. So a 4 is the highest a student could get on any skill, and that exceeds the standard. A 3 would be met the standard, and a 2 is approaching. So for me, if you're getting a C, you're getting it, but you're missing some of the key elements to the skill. So for me, I mean, the grading scale, it makes this all work for me, that I am comfortable with. If I give you a 2 out of 4 on this, then you're getting the idea. You need to, you're not quite perfect on it, or what I'm looking for to get all elements of it, but you're getting there. So that the grading scale, I mean, I could spend a whole hour talking about the grading scale.
Thank you, Julie. Thank you, Julie.
And I just
Jacqueline?
wanted to add in that Beth really concisely articulated what I love about this. I teach at the college Julie's at, in case everybody didn't know that. And Julie is so fantastic of pulling this data out and causing us to question. You know, as we started down this journey, it is truly the data analysis that says, just like Jacqueline was articulating, is this saying, is what I hope is happening? And unless we take the time to dive deeply and disaggregate like Julie has done, we're not able to say, are my students learning the outcomes I want? And do my grades truly represent what I think is happening? And it really takes a lot of, confidence is the right word, but abilities as an instructor to say, no, I'm not doing this. Something's messed up. Something's not doing right. And I'm so appreciative at my college to have colleagues such as Julie to be able to challenge me and to help me disaggregate the data and say, something's wonky right here. Let's talk about this. And, it's another level to be able to not get defensive and say, hey, don't you tell me I'm not doing my teaching right. I'm good. I'm good. And be able to say, oh, shoot, you're right. That is not working out how I want it to work out. And those conversations have to happen carefully on our campus. And when we're talking about analyzing our data around outcomes, just like Jacqueline, you were worried about offending Julie because it's a touchy subject. And thankfully, Julie is absolutely fantastic and able to articulate her data and be able to step back and say, you got a point. So I just wanted to butt in and say all those things.
Right. I think if I may, that you really hit on something. When we talk about faculty buy-in, which is always a struggle, it's because faculty tends to see assessment as a stick. And it's not a stick. I'm not trying to beat you with your failure. That's not it. But we have to acknowledge that we don't get it right. And then the flip side of that, we're all running scared from accreditation. Oh my God, accreditation will see that we're not doing a good job. Accreditors don't particularly care that you're imperfect. They care that you know that you're imperfect. So you don't have to show through your assessment, oh my God, we rock, look how great we are. But you do need to be able to say, here's an area of success and here's an area where we struggle.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Amanda, I think you're up next.
Yeah, I'll just bring it home a little bit. So Julie and I are at the same college and we're working very closely together. She's the program review coordinator and I'm the outcomes coordinator. So we've worked closely in implementing some new data analysis techniques at Readly. And Jacqueline, you just paired it up perfect for me that we are just starting this out right now. And there is a lot of bumps in the road. And as we implement this, and we present it and we analyze it, I know we're going to find things that that's not telling us what we want to. But one of our institutional learning outcomes this semester or this year that we recently formed was around innovation and the willing to try something, even if it fails miserably. And that's what we're really standing behind is, hey, we've looked at how we've done it in the past and it's not giving us what we want. So we're going to try it this way. We have a 2-year program review cycle just for that reason, to be able to look at these processes and say, nope, this isn't what we thought. We're gonna give it another go. So I say that to tee you up to what we're doing, and it's not perfect. So we walked away in our outcome assessments from a hosted platform, and it was Illumin. And I'm not saying anything against the hosted platform, but we really wanted to be able to modify and change and be dynamic in how we did things. And Julie and I are a little bit of a control freak, so we wanted to be able to change things when we wanted to change them and not wait for anybody else. So we are using Smartsheet, which is a relational database on steroids, basically. And Julie is a Smartsheet guru, so when I break things, she goes in and fixes it for me. and then I break it again and she fixes it again. So what we did to analyze our program award outcomes, and this is a big change for us in the verbiage we used as well. And I've talked about this at other ones, presentations, but our program award outcomes are tied to the certificates and the degrees. And so how we're analyzing this, and I'm just going to go ahead and share my screen, and I'm talking fast because I want to get through everything, and I know we're going to run out of time for questions anyway. So we've engaged in guided pathways like most of us. And can I just get a verification I'm sharing the agriculture or animal science?
Yes.
Perfect. Okay. So what each of our programs have done is create this map, and in that map, they've outlined, okay, here are the courses that students need to take in the semester they need to take. And while this is important for this presentation, this is what I've used to generate the reports I'm going to show you in just a second. Because these are the courses that faculty have said, these are the GE courses that students need to take in this, it says to us, and again, just like Jacqueline had articulated, accreditation is looking for the processes that work for us. So what we decided for us is that our program award outcomes should be assessment should be based on the classes that are part of that program award. And I know that was a lot of words, so I'm just going to show you what we've created. Did my screen change to my graphs? Okay. So what we've done in Smartsheet is we have all the results for animal science, and animal science has been great about doing their assessment. So everything that I'm showing you now is generated via a very simple few question SLO assessment data. So we were able to build these reports using Smartsheet. So faculty in these departments are able to see, okay, here are the outcome results on all of the animal science courses. And here is the classes that have submitted information in those animal science. Everything is tied to our 4-point rubric. And we have attempted, meaning they've attempted the assessment, some proficiency, proficient, and exceeds proficiency. Now, one of the fantastic things and why I'm highlighting animal science is just this week, Julie and I were able to go and present to this department. And by presenting and having the ability for them to look at their data, it fostered that conversation about, okay, does this truly say what we want it to say? If I'm looking at my animal science 3, my animal science 4 and 40, do this amount of students, are they truly exceeding proficiency in all of their SLOs together? So within that department, looking at the data, seeing it as graphical representation for them, it facilitates those conversations of, is my assessments doing what they're supposed to assess? And so I'm just going to go down here. And again, these classes, they're aggregating together based on that map that the faculty have put together. So the animal science program award outcome is being assessed by all of these SLO data coming into one. Now, the ag business, agriculture, mech ag, and plant science have not submitted any outcome analysis or outcome data. So these graphs are blank. And I'm not going to lie and say that we're not using this as a shaming technique, because this is visibly the departments can see, and everybody can see that these departments haven't. And I say that lovingly because we are far behind. Our assessment isn't where it should be because we've changed platforms 3 times in the last 3 years. So faculty are at the point of, done, I'm not doing anything. And so that is where we are right now. And we're very transparent about that, and we're working on it. But we see right here, same thing. So each of these program award outcomes are tied to the degrees. And so you can see it right here. And animal science curriculum, certificate of achievement is only animal science classes. So that's why we only have this one discipline being reported. And then the equine is part of the animal science. So these are the dashboards that we have created or creating for faculty to be able to see to analyze their data. And like I said, as the lead into this, we don't know if it's going to be the right way to assess the data until we have it in and the departments come back and say, hey, this isn't saying what we need to say. We need to start again and figure out a better way to assess our program award outcomes and be able to clean that data up and say, we tried it this way. We need to look at it and deep dive more into these classes. And maintain, change what our map says, because this is not what we want to be able to report out on. Okay, so that was a very quick flyby, but I want to give time for questions and reflections. And oh my goodness, that is the worst way you can possibly assess your program award outcomes. We can take it.
So Amanda, if I may, again, this is sort of like very much in line with what I asked others presenters about. What do you think are the characteristics of students who are excelling or those who are on the higher end of competency attainment?
So like
Are they
exceeds proficiency?
right?
Yeah.
Because that, again, those percentages are quite high, right?
Mhm.
What contributes to this?
So for me, and like I said, this is where we were able to facilitate a conversation with the discipline faculty on they need to be in agreement what that means. And I shared the example for me in my class. I tell my students exceeds proficiency means that you can teach this subject, you can teach this skill because you're exceeding proficiency. And because of that, for my courses, I have a 3-point rubric because I've got those students that totally freak out if they're not getting a 4, when in reality, most of them shouldn't be getting a 4, because if they can get a 4, they can take my place. And I teach child development. I didn't say that. And there are some students who are coming back and they might be at exceed. So I want to have it there. But by having that 4 there for many of my skills, students are constantly feeling that they're less than because of how our grading systems they've been exposed to for the 12 years, when actually 3, that's where you should be. You should be proficient. This is where I want to get you at. So a very verbose way to answer your question is exceeds proficiency is they can teach it.
Right.
Thank you. Thank you.
Perfect.
Sally Potter, you're
Hi,
colleague from
Amanda.
Fresno City College.
Okay, so I think what I'm a little bit stuck on, and I know we're almost running out of time, but I'm hoping that you can give some examples about this, because to me, it's, you know, it starts with what your the language of your SLO is, and if you know, and then that leads to what your assessment could possibly be. So for those of you who don't know, I am I teach ESL. And so, and I don't know if that's unique or not, but, and our program is very dynamic, to put it lightly. We have tons of new courses changing all the time. It's almost like we have a 4, used to be 5-year, now it's a 4-year cycle. We can never get through a cycle without new classes, courses going away, changing. It's always, we just can never get through a cycle. And so that is kind of what I'm struggling with, is how to have these, make assessments that are kind of like consistent, I guess. So can you kind of share some examples of that, if that makes sense?
Amanda?
Yeah, and Yark, I saw you had unmuted. Did you want to say before I intervened?
No. Just the fact that I am from ESL, and yet what Sally is bringing up is a valid point. Absolutely, yeah. I just want to say kudos.
Yeah, and this actually was one of the things that Julie and I have discovered as we facilitated conversations on breaking the SLOs down to skills, is so many faculty have said, my SLO is not what I want it to be. These aren't the skills that I need it to be. And in the process of assessing, what I found in mine, and I come from ECE, which I think is a lot similar to ESL, is what I was assessing, what I was giving them to do did not match the language of my SLO as far as the skills that I was expecting them. So an example would be, we have an SLO around evaluating an environment. So what I was having them do was create an infant environment. And so when I sat back and looked at those skills, evaluating and creating are 2 very different skill levels. To create something, that's a much higher level of understanding than to evaluate something based on the criteria they knew. And so it was like this aha moment that blew my mind. I couldn't believe what I had been subjecting my students to, but under this SLO, and I like the SLO. I think it matches what it is. So I had to change that assessment. And I had already talked about creation. And so I was very transparent with my students and said, hey, I'm going to change this. And they hadn't started the assignment. It was just something that we had already introduced earlier, that I want you to evaluate it, and here is why. And so those are the conversations that we need to be having, is you need to look, is this the skill you truly want students to do? And look at those actual terms, because I've been doing this for 20 years and it quite literally blew my mind. I've seen it go, well, shoot. So that kind of answered your question, kind of not. But it's hard to push that out, to get hundreds of faculty to see it that way. I'm all about grassroots. And so it starts with this little fire here. I'm talking that conversation and growing it from there.
I know we have a few minutes. Jarek, would you like to speak to that since you're in ESL also?
Oh, again, we are struggling pretty much with the same issues all the time. I think Fred alluded to this depth of competency, right? That there are certain things that need to happen before students are ready to move on. I know that's very true in math as well. So again, it's all very much in line with everything that we are talking about. And again, the question is here that I agree with Amanda. It's not something that we can just kind of make happen. Look how many, this is year number 3 of us meeting weekly, practically talking about this, right? Let alone, the fact that SLOs have been requested or mandated by our accrediting bodies for over, I don't know, 10, maybe even 15 years. And look where we are. So this is not a topic that's going to go away. But I think that thanks again to these presentations, I'm just so truly amazed by the fact that we are starting to pay attention to what it is that students learn. Mastery matters. And I think that, again, Fred very, very well articulated and brought this home points today. So thank you so much. This is just of great importance, and it's very, very revealing to us. So Trisha, Jennifer, Long Beach City College, you guys rock, and everyone else who contributed today. It's just been really, really fantastic experience. So thank you.
It's 12 o'clock. Would you like to close it, Jared?
Oh, it is. It is. Well, thank you very much then. All right, what can I say? It's 12 o'clock. Thank you, Amanda. You certainly did speech for this. So I'm just very, very grateful. Let me just make sure that I